What's up, everybody? Welcome back. I wanted to catch everybody up on what's been going on with me over the last year or so, but really to fully explain the last year, I kind of got to go way back to 2011. So, right around 2011, I'm in high school, I'm almost graduated, I'm a junior, I'm a wrestler, it's in the middle of wrestling season, and I really have to jump through a lot of hoops to figure out what I have, but it started off as a lump in my left side, kind of in my hip right here. And I was laying down, I think I was doing sit ups, and I looked down, I just saw this lump in my side, and I thought, this doesn't look natural. I should get this checked out. So I went to the doctor, went to the hospital, got it checked out with several different doctors. Nobody can tell me what it is. At first, they tell me I have a hernia, and therefore I can't work out. And so I go to school and tell everybody, hey guys, I have a hernia, I can't work out. And so I'm standing off to the side. I'm at a military school at this time. So this must have been back in like 2010. But I'm at a military school and everyone's doing their marching and jogging and push-ups, and I'm just standing off to the side because I have a hernia apparently. And as I go through the process to get it taken care of, they say we want to do a biopsy on it. And I say, okay, I mean, you're the experts, you do whatever is supposed to be done in this situation. And so they stick a needle into me and pull a little piece of this thing, this lump in my side out. They send it off to the lab to get it checked out. They tell my parents, we can confirm that your son does not have cancer. He doesn't have cancer. And of course, everyone's relieved. Great. He doesn't have cancer. That's good. I'm relieved. And then about a week later, we get a call. Hey, you have cancer. It's just a really rare type of cancer, and we didn't know it was cancer at first. So that has really thrown a monkey wrench into my whole life ever since that happened. Um, once you find something like that out, the medical industrial complex has a way of just monopolizing your whole life at that point. You gotta go to the doctor, you gotta take your medicine, you gotta pay us a bunch of money, you gotta leave work, leave school, stop working out, have surgery, have a muscle removed, get sliced open. It's a lot. It really is a lot. It just totally throws your whole life on a different trajectory than what it was. So I go through the steps. I do what the experts tell me that I need to do, and in that case, it was just to get surgery. They said chemo doesn't work on this very rare type of cancer called a fibromyxoid sarcoma, and the only solution is to cut it out. They tell me that this fibromyxoid sarcoma tumor is growing out of my iliacus muscle in my left leg, and that therefore they're going to just remove my entire iliacus muscle from my body. And I'm just a teenager. My parents and we think that we can trust the doctors. What do we know compared to them? Of course, they're going to tell us the best medical procedure that can be done to help my situation, right? So we go forward with that. We get my tumor chopped out of my body. I get put on a bunch of drugs, so I'm not awake for any of it, which, maybe that's good. Maybe that has side effects. Probably has some kind of side effects on my body. I don't really know. Now I have a huge, like a foot long scar on my side, about like, here going down to my pelvis area. Giant scar, and it's kind of tough to recover from. When you get that much of your body chopped open, yeah, it hurts to roll over, and I won't go into too many of the details. I'm going to try to stay focused here. Um, I recovered. I was still able to walk and run, and I was wrestling again soon. And there was definitely a few times where I was in pain because of my surgery, both in the hospital and on the wrestling mat. But I recovered pretty well. I was able to continue to do very well in wrestling and running and sports. And the doctors told me this tumor's taken over your iliacus muscle, so you probably didn't really have accessibility or functionality to this muscle anyways, so you probably won't notice much of a difference after we remove it. So okay, great. I recover. That was around 2011 I had surgery. I go in for monthly scans and then yearly scans, and then it's like every 5 years or something. And I guess eventually I fall off from going to my scans as much as I should. And then in 2021, about 10 years later, I notice my lump is back and I have to get the surgery a second time. Oh well, they didn't get it all. Oops, it stinks. Going back for round two. This time we're going to really try to get it all. The doctor says he's going to scrape my bone to scrape every last bit of it. He hit one of my nerves in my leg going in, so my whole leg, like now I feel numb in parts of my leg. But you get used to it. Okay, whatever. I got cut open again. The second surgery was a lot harder to recover from. Apparently, they're going deeper into me every time they cut me open. So it's not ideal. Okay, they missed some. Hopefully, they got it all this time, though, right? 2 years later, about 2023, I noticed I have a lump again. So remember, it was 2011, 2021. I had a 10-year gap. That's okay. Surgery every 10 years, I can do that. But then there was only a 2-year gap between my second and third time noticing I had a lump in my side. And for those who don't know, fibromyxoid sarcoma is a sarcoma which are known for reoccurring in the same place. So um, it's definitely staying true to the characteristics that a sarcoma has. It is continuing to come back in the same place over and over and over again. So it's back again, and it's only been 2 years since I had the surgery. Now, this is concerning. This is about a year ago. I'm going through this, thinking to myself, I just had surgery 2 years ago. Can I really get cut open, every 2, 5, 10 years for the rest of my life? This can't be good for me. I'm already missing a muscle. Now my leg is numb. The doctor's telling me every time it gets harder and harder. So I go in to talk to my surgeon about getting surgery again because, of course, that's what I'm told I need to do. And this was one of the it's one of the most difficult times of my life, I would say. It didn't need to be, but I trusted my doctor too much, so it was. My surgeon told me that every time I get surgery, it's going to get harder and harder to recover. They're going to go deeper and deeper into me every time. And that I could really expect within the next 10 years or so to have a permanent catheter installed, which sounds horrible. Like, how am I going to wrestle? How am I going to play basketball? How am I going to go to work with a permanent catheter I got to drag around with me? It sounds awful. And then he doesn't give an exact time frame, but he says, sometime after that I could probably expect to die a very early death, and that I should come to terms with that. And I went out to my car and I just bawled my eyes out. I remember, I don't really cry a lot, but I was distressed. Like, how could this be happening? I'm a young, healthy man. I was 29 years old at the time. How am I dying already? Like, I feel like I eat healthier than most of the people I know. I work out. I'm in great shape. I can basically beat up everybody that I know. How am I dying from cancer? This just doesn't even make sense. So I schedule a meeting to go meet with my oncologist to talk about my situation. And by this time, I've started doing some of my own research. And my oncologist tells me, of course, that I need to do the surgery. And I asked him, are there any alternatives? Is there anything else that I can do besides this surgery? And he says, no, there are no other alternatives. So then I ask him, what is our long-term plan? So let's just say I go ahead and get this surgery. How are we going to make sure it doesn't come back? Because I got a very grim prognosis from my surgeon. And getting cut open every 2 years with no plan to prevent this from coming back this quickly again, that doesn't make any sense. So, what is our long term plan here? And he says, we just have to hope. And this is at a time where I know that there are alternatives. I've done some research. Thankfully, I've met people at my church and I found great videos online, and my mom helped me do a lot of research, and we found out there are other ways to manage cancer that he's not telling me about. And so I tell him, look, doc, it seems like you only want to tell me the procedures that you make money on. It seems like you only want to tell me about drugs and surgeries. Aren't there ways to prevent this from coming back? And he says, we don't make any money on surgeries. I looked at him in the eyes and I said, you're telling me you don't make money on surgeries? And then he changed the topic and started talking about something else. He didn't want to talk about that anymore. And then at some point in the discussion, I suggest maybe if I cut sugar out of my diet, that could slow it down, right? And he responds, oh, that just sounds horrible. Living a life without sugar? Life isn't even worth living at that point. Why would you do that? Nobody wants to do that. And I'm thinking, wow, what an interesting answer. He doesn't actually address the validity of my claim. He just is addicted to sugar. But what I've come to learn is that these doctors, these oncologists, these surgeons, they really don't have a clue. And I know that sounds extreme. I know that sounds crazy from a guy like me who didn't go to med school. But I've listened to enough doctors to know that the hospitals are not telling us the truth. I have talked to over a dozen different doctors in the hospital system. I have been cut open twice in the exact same place on my side to have my tumor removed. Did any of them tell me how I could slow down this tumor from coming back? No. Did any of them give me any advice on how I could potentially keep it from coming back? No. Did any of them tell me about any kind of experimental procedures that I might consider looking into or giving a try? No. And there's a lot of reasons for this. I think insurance is a big part of it. I think oncologists and doctors are terrified to tell you about any kind of alternative treatment that isn't endorsed by the giant medical industrial complex system. The doctors are just grunts that are told what to do. In this situation, give them this drug. In this situation, give them this surgery. They don't actually learn how to think critically. They don't learn how to try new things or think outside the box. All they do is regurgitate information. And if they stray too far off the path, they open themselves up to lawsuits. So that's how our system works. So what have I learned by branching out and doing my own research? Well, the number one thing I've learned about cancer is that cancer feeds on sugar. That's something that's not controversial. I mean, when I took a CAT scan at the hospital, the nurse explained to me that they're injecting radioactive sugar into my veins. And because it's sugar, it will all get attracted to my cancerous tumor because cancer feeds on sugar like a frenzy. It just absorbs all the sugar. It goes straight to the cancer. And since the sugar is radioactive, it shows up on a scan. So this isn't like some crackpot theory that I'm going out on a limb and I'm trusting conspiracy theorists. Like, this is confirmed science. This is how we do medicine. Cancer likes sugar a lot. So you would think, after talking to over a dozen doctors, dozens of nurses, visiting how many hospitals? I don't know, a handful of hospitals, being cut open twice, about to be cut open a third time, you would think that someone would have mentioned to me, hey, did you know that if you slow down your sugar intake, you might get cancer a little slower? You might not have to get chopped open quite as often. You might not have to get mutilated quite as much. You might not have to feed quite as many thousands of dollars into this medical industrial complex that hates you and wants you to be a lifelong patient rather than make you healthy. But no, nobody ever bothered to mention that. I guess it never came to anybody's mind. Which is why I no longer trust doctors. I no longer trust hospitals. I would rather do my own research and take my health into my own hands. I'd rather find a doctor that I can trust, even if he's online, than just going to the hospitals that make so much money off of people staying sick. So, I have found really great doctors online. I have found that Dr. Thomas Seyfried, for example, cures, well, cures a lot of patients who are dealing with cancer. And I use quotations when I say cures because technically he doesn't cure cancer, but he does help people manage cancer and live their lives with a very high standard of living. They're not living their lives bedridden, losing their hair, being mutilated on their deathbed for years. He helps them live active lives where they actually forget they even have cancer. And how does he do it? Well, I would definitely encourage anyone struggling with cancer to listen to Dr. Thomas Seyfried because, contrary to the medical industrial complex, he claims that all cancers function essentially the same way. They all rely on fermentation for their energy, which means they need glucose and glutamine. And if you cut that out of your body, primarily through your diet and fasting, then you can weaken and even kill cancer. So his method that I'm going to try is to get your blood glucose way down, your ketones way up, which is primarily done by cutting out sugar, cutting down on carbs significantly, and even fasting. And once you do that, there's a lot of procedures that work very well at helping to obliterate cancer, such as vitamin C injections, antiparasitic drugs like ivermectin, fenbendazole, hydroxychloroquine. So I've been on keto for about a year, which means no grains, no added sugar, and it's fixed a lot of my health problems. Um, it has not fixed my cancer yet, though. So I'm stepping it up a notch right now. Yesterday, I started my carnivore diet, which hopefully goes very well. It's almost like the more extreme version of keto. I'm cutting my carbs and sugar way, 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 way down. So I'm taking in no sugar on the carnivore diet, just eating meat and animal products. So my diet mainly consists of bacon, eggs, beef, butter, and cheese, but I'll probably try to cut my cheese down as I go into this diet a bit. I'm going to try this diet for 3 months based on the recommendations of Dr. Ken Berry. And if anyone's interested, I followed Dr. Berg on YouTube for keto, and I think he has a lot of useful information too. But I think I need a little bit more, and that's why I'm going to try carnivore for 3 months. And I believe that carnivore is going to get my blood glucose and my ketones in the range that Dr. Thomas Seyfried, the lead cancer researcher in the world, claims is the range where I can kill and manage my cancer. So I will keep everyone posted. Hopefully, in 2 or 3 months, I'll have some great news telling everyone I got my blood in the range that I wanted it to be in. I started taking the drugs and the vitamin C, maybe some cryotherapy, maybe a hyperbaric chamber, and hopefully I can see my cancer getting shredded to pieces. And maybe I can be an example for everyone else who's having their health struggles, because it seems very clear that the information we're being fed and the food we're being fed is not good for us. So I encourage everyone to free your mind, seek the truth, take your health into your own hands, and pray. God bless you.